Hi, everybody. How are you? 9 a.m. really slotted me in at the ideal time. So really happy you're here with me. I'm Isabel Kurzner. I'm the head of real estate for Barry's here out of Miami, Florida. So just want to start off to level set. Who here works out? Okay, good. You're in the right room. Who here has heard of Barry's? Strong. Okay. Who here has taken a Barry's? Okay, we have a customer acquisition piece to work on. So Barry's, what are we? It's a premium boutique fitness brand. We do HIIT interval training. We were founded in 1988, so would argue not a fad. It is a combination of treadmill work and strength training on the floor. We're famous for our red room, which you can see in this picture. Just going one slide. So I have 6 images here. What do you see? You see a smoothie, treadmills, a nightclub, front desk, locker rooms, a retail store. I'm building all 6 of these. This is a Barry's in 4,000 square feet. So we're operating these nightclubs essentially as premium boutique fitness. So quite a challenge to build out, but engaging. It's really what makes Barry's a Barry's. It's a full 360 experience. We want people to stay for more than 50 minutes. We want you to come in. We want you to, of course, check in at our front desk, talk to our staff. We want you to take our class. Then we want you to go shower. Then we want you to go blow dry your hair with our Dyson hair dryers, use our whey products. Then we want you to come out, drink your smoothie, go shopping at our retail store, and then plug in your computer and stay for a while. So in the marketplace, fitness has really made this boom post-COVID. Think about the dark days of COVID. Who was hit harder than fitness? We had to shutter our doors across the country. But what we've seen in this post-COVID environment is really interesting. We've gotten younger, and we've gotten people coming back, and we're growing. People are wanting that sense of community. People are wanting that experience. So we are catering to a little bit of a different clientele. But we're as hot as ever. I would say, retail as a lifestyle infrastructure, fitness is the really core tenet of a lot of these merch plans and what landlords are looking for. We're driving traffic, early in the morning, middle of the day, before the dinner crowd. We are making these retail centers vibrant, and it's what people and landlords are looking for. So what's interesting here, you've heard it from other people, not just me. People are wanting experiences out of their retail environment, not just, what did you buy? What piece of clothing do I have? Like with Barry's, what's really interesting about the brand is it is a complete lifestyle experience. That is what we are selling. Our red room, which is the workout environment, is everything to our customers. And I would argue over the past 26 years that we've been in business, people are taking pictures in front of our selfie wall. They're taking videos in the red room. They're sharing on social media. It's almost like cultural cachet. And we want to continue to deliver that environment to our customers. So, when you think about experience, what is that? Obviously it is the physical space that you're in. It's the lighting. It's the materiality. It's the layout. It's the product, it's the music. So that is what we are trying to deliver at scale, which is what we're doing over the next 20 units that we're planning on delivering in 2026. I, with my team, like to think about Starbucks. Early 2000s, we were all talking about how amazing Starbucks is and what they've created. It was a 3rd place. People, didn't just go to Starbucks because the coffee was bad. People went because they wanted to be there. And they wanted to stay a while, and it felt really good. And that's what we're trying to do with Barry's, make it that 3rd place. I know I mentioned it before, but we're really focused in like our lobby areas. How do I get people to stay? How do I get people to come with their friends? There are a lot of people offering fitness in today's environment. What makes us different? It's really that sense of community that I mentioned before. I would say like our most successful units, if you think about those dense urban environments, it's young people, they're in their 20s, they're in their 30s, they live in small apartments, maybe in New York City. They want somewhere to go to see people, be seen, have that sense of community environment, and that's what we're giving them, and it continues to work. So just wanted to include here kind of some interesting images. When you think about scale, I would say a lot of brands have done this badly. It's really hard to scale and still feel local. It obviously requires a lot more detail. It is harder work. You have to reinvent the wheel every time you go into a new place. But when we think about localization, I think that's a really key pillar to our brand and what we've done. So bottom left, Hampton's location. In the middle is actually our West Hollywood location. That came from leadership. They basically said to us, make it look like a rainbow threw up over West Hollywood, and gave us complete, creative liberties to do that. I would say for RetailSpaces, what's really interesting for Barry's as a team, I have a really small team. We rely so heavily on our vendors to come to us to push the envelope and do cool things. So, I know our lighting vendor somewhere here, but what does the lighting package look like? We want to push the envelope. I don't have the capacity all day, every day to continue to reinvent the wheel. But what's a value add for me is having vendors come to me and say, I know you do it this way. Have you thought about doing X, Y, and Z? So we continue to do that. So I would say, yes, we have standardized many things within our 4,000 square foot prototype. But what changes is signage. Huge opportunity for us to make it super hyper local. And then, we play with the color palette, et cetera, but the signage piece is everything to us. All right, so we started in 1988. That was in West Hollywood. We're now at 51 locations domestically, just over 90, including all of our international partners. We just bought back the rights to our UK business and our Canadian business. When we think about expansion, we started in LA, we started in New York City, San Francisco, Miami, very coastal elite, and it worked. I would say for any brand going from 0 units to 50 units, you go, oh, this works. And then you kind of know where your customers are. I could put a Barry's in Chelsea in New York, I could put it in Venice and Castro, like it's gonna work. But if any brand is scaling from 50 to 250, it's a different consideration set. So how do I still make this relevant for those people and also find people in these different markets? It exists, but maybe it's a different, product, maybe it's a different positioning. So when I think about growth for Barry's in this next phase for us, we're growing by 20 units every year. We're going to double our footprint. Where is that? There's only so many New York City locations that I can open. Secondary markets is huge. Denver, Charleston, Scottsdale, Raleigh. Incredible spaces for us. I would say it's a bigger risk tolerance that we're willing to take because we don't know how we're going to be received in those areas. But those secondary markets, we actually opened in Tampa a few years ago, which was a huge risk for us. It was one of the first secondary markets that we did. And people love us, but it is a smaller footprint. We don't have fuel bar. But we're still delivering that same Red Room product, and it's been really successful. So looking to replicate that. These urban lifestyle hubs is the second. I mentioned that already. We don't need to talk about it. Suburban lifestyle centers. So suburbia was a really scary word for me, 5 years ago. But we have realized that these people that have grown to love our brand, let's use New York City as an example. They're 30, they're 40, they have their first kid, they have their second kid, and then they move to Scarsdale, or they move to Millburn, New Jersey. They still want that brand, but more, obviously local to where they live. So do I need to lease 6,000 square feet in Millburn, New Jersey? Probably not. 3,500 square feet. I'm going to put in my Red Room and give them that same exact experience. They probably are not showering in Millburn, New Jersey, so smaller locker rooms. And I'm able to still capitalize on it, even though I'm not seeing 3,000 people a week, 1,000 people a week. It still works for our business model. The brand equity grows. We're still delivering on that top client experience. So it's a huge opportunity for us. There are way more suburbs in the country than there are New York cities. So I mentioned this, but formats are evolving. This is a really tough one for any premium brand. People love Barry's because Barry's has everything, and it's upscale, and it feels really good if you think about Equinox or some of our competitors. Solidcore, I know, is somewhere in the crowd. Our brand equity is everything. However, brand equity can come in many different shapes and forms. So we've done a lot of talking to our clients of what's really important. For us as a brand, the Red Room is something we are not willing to compromise on. That is our core product, and we will deliver that no matter where we are. Having said that, real conversations, locker rooms are expensive. The plumbing, it's a huge added expense for us, the tiling, et cetera. Do we still need that? Towel service, we have a whole back house laundry. There are just so many different considerations. Fuel bar, $250,000. Retail, do we need an entire retail store in our lobby? So they're all conversations we're having internally. The suburb footprint is different than our New York City footprint, but we still want it to look the same. So thinking about, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, I give a lot of credit to our vendors. This has been something we've taken for, the last few years under consideration of asking all our vendors to come back to us and say, how do we make it look like this at half the cost? Which I know everybody says, right? But it's really important to who we are and still delivering on that top A experience. All right, the last one. Had to put this in. Landlords love us, which makes my job easier in a lot of ways. It's that cultural cachet that I talked about before. We are driving traffic where other people are not. We are destinational in nature. We play really well off of F&B, retail. If you think about your Alo Yogas, Vioris of the world, Maman, Pura Vida, et cetera. The co-tenancy piece is important. It's creating that sense of community, and the retail loves to cluster together. This is buzzy. Everybody talks about data, using data to fuel growth and AI and et cetera. I would say this starts really basic for brands that are in the 50 to 500 unit range. So understanding who is your customer, what has worked before, what hasn't worked before. So the first is, okay, from a demographic, psychographic standpoint, this is what works for my brand. Let me look at the top 100 MSAs that I think make sense, and how does that match up? Okay, easy enough. We use things like, Esri to get that type of information. The second piece of it is, a little more complicated, using data regression, cell phone tracking, Esri to basically come up with our full list of, hey, how do we replicate this across the country? And then we review the competitive landscape. Other brands have done this successfully. Where are they finding success? Where's the white space in the country? The last piece of it is cannibalization. I would say our business is a little more sensitive to cannibalization than a Pilates concept, let's say. Pilates, but you put 10 reformers in a room, you can fill it 15 times a day. Barry's, our capacity is 45, 50, and we fill it probably 8 or 9 times a day. So more sensitive to cannibalization, don't want to take a hit to our business that's more than 10 to 15%. So that's definitely part of the equation. I would say our brand's a little bit different. Number 5, we've done really heavily in the past listening to our customers. We have a really engaged customer base. It is surprising how much we listen to our Instagram, TikTok, email channels. I'll give you just a few examples. The demographics and psychographics in Scottsdale, Arizona were absolutely awful. Same with Charleston. Didn't match up with what we were looking for, was way too old for Scottsdale. And we almost didn't do that deal. It is one of, I would say, in the top 10 attendance studios that we see today. And that was just from listening to our Instagram presence of people years and years, come to Scottsdale, come to Scottsdale, come to Scottsdale. So it has made us question data, I would say. And I think it's a good reminder for everybody of data and art is real estate, and retail real estate specifically. So listening to your customers is an important piece of that. Regression analysis, basically taking all of these different factors, putting it through analysis to determine, how many people are we going to see, what does it look like, what can we pay in rent, et cetera. So really putting more rigor around what expansion looks like over the next couple of years. This is I want to tattoo this to my forehead. Champagne taste, beer budget. That's Barry's, and honestly, that is most retailers in today's environment. Everybody wants something that looks really good, right? Feels really good, but nobody has the budget for it. We've heard a lot about it. I'm sure everyone's tired of hearing construction costs out of control. At a certain point, and most retailers, won't say this, it doesn't make sense anymore. And we are reaching that point, I would argue. For a fitness user, I know how much money I'm going to make. It's not like F&B where, I could be open all day, and it's more, there's more opportunity. I'm capped. So I know what I can pay in rent. From a build-out perspective, things have, almost doubled, I would say, from a few years ago in the pre-COVID era. And we're still expected to deliver and deliver better. So what do you do? I mean, these are a few ideas that me and my team have come up with. It is not the answer. You've heard it all before. Everybody's leasing smaller. That's the easiest thing that can go. I can still deliver you the same experience in 3,500 square feet that I can in 7,000 square feet. That's the first thing to go. I would say we're thinking about programming. Do I need to do individual men's and women's locker rooms? Can I do, 1 or 2 bathrooms that include that? Do I do shower pans? Do people really care? We've gone through all of these exercises as a company. What's interesting for people on the design and construction side is you overthink the small things. I don't think anybody knows what a shower pan is that isn't in our industry. Nobody cares. How about the tiles? Like, have you seen them at Home Depot? They're almost like panels that you put up, and you don't have to grout or do anything like that. Like, we've considered putting those in our locker rooms to cut down on cost. We've pulled out a lot of owner-furnished items, owner-supplied items out of our GC contracts. We order those all directly now. So all things that we think about as we look to expand. That's Barry's, that's our expansion. It's a really interesting next few years for us. We are looking to still be premium, still, offer that boutique experience. We're really excited about it, and hopefully we can partner with some of you. Appreciate you guys coming out so early, and thank you for the time. Any questions at all? I'll be here. Thank you.
We have time for a couple of questions if anybody has any.
So they said that there's probably data that, for example, you start listening to your customers and they told you the total code deal. Like, can you give me more information? Like, what data do you use? Like Placer AI, like that kind of thing.
Yep.
How are you collecting that new data to decide where you want to open it for?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say we've used Buxton, we've used SiteWise, we've used Dimension, which is a CBRE tool. Esri, I touched on, Placer AI. We've done a lot with all these different vendors. I would say from a pure cell phone tracking perspective, it's really only helpful once you understand like the MSA that you want to be in, like where are people going. What I have used Placer for, which I found very helpful, is pre and post like COVID trends. So for example, in Navy Yard in DC, we opened a unit, wanted to understand, are people still going to that neighborhood? Are they traveling outside of the neighborhood? Would it cannibalize our DuPont studio? So cannibalization, migratory trends, I would say Placer is really helpful on. For more high level and macro, we've used Dimension and Buxton to try to help us understand where that white space opportunity is. What's interesting is they gave very different answers. Buxton, I would say, was more focused on just bottom line EBITDA without thinking about more like migratory trends post-COVID. And I would say the Dimension data that we used was more white space opportunity that were, little cash cows throughout the country, but not the highest EBITDA grossing studios. So my only recommendation with data is like you're gonna get something a little different from whoever you talk to or whoever you use. So having multiple sources of truth, combining them then with your own customer data is super important. Scottsdale was a really unique one, and I think opened our eyes as to like what the possibilities are. I would say for Scottsdale, we also overlay psychographic data. So we have these like 7 core buckets where we've identified 90% of customers fall within these buckets. That has changed post-COVID, and Scottsdale was a prime example of it. We are targeting, a different customer at this point, and having a more inclusive data set, and we've now rerun that to be a little bit more accurate, has been very successful for us.
Well, thank you so much, Isabel.
Thank you.